A few years ago, my husband and I were asked to chaperone a stake dance in our neighborhood. As we drove to the venue, we were talking about how our own experiences had gone when we were teenagers in the 70s. Loud, crowded rooms, blaring music, awkward experiences. We wondered what kind of an experience we would have at this dance. Nothing could have prepared us for what happened. As we walked in, the lights were on and the music wasn't that loud, which was good. And there were tables set up around the perimeter of the dance floor for the kids to play games if they wanted to, but those were pretty sparsely populated. This was a five-stake dance, and there was about 50 kids there. We joked about how there were more chaperones than there were kids. And it was almost like there was a dividing line between the dance floor. On the one side, you had the boys, and they were pushing each other and telling jokes and laughing. And on the other side, you had the girls who were looking at their cell phones or taking selfies or giggling, maybe dancing a little bit. But the two sides did not meet in the middle at all. There was one brave young man who was asking girls to dance, and we watched him go to several different girls and got shot down every time. Finally, one of the girls agreed to dance with him. They moved a little away from where the girls were standing and they began to dance. And we had great hopes for this because we had been watching him the whole time. But about halfway through the dance, the girl excused herself and went back to her gaggle of girls. Later on, the DJ put on one of those computer games that where you dance together, and all of the children started to dance in sync, but they weren't dancing together. All in all, it seemed like a pretty poor way to teach children how to interact with members of the opposite sex. So what does a stake dance, is kind of dysfunctional, have to do with teaching your children about sex education? In some ways, it has everything to do with it. We live in a world that sends a lot of mixed messages. You have the media with pornography and other means that give a very dysfunctional message about sex. Our education system has programs that they run, but these seem to be pretty ineffective. And what children really need is information on how to have a conversation and how to create a good relationship that they can be happy with. This needs to start in the home, and it needs to start young. Let's talk about the media. You see a lot of backwards relationships in the media. A couple will meet and they will share an intimate physical experience before they've ever talked to each other or even know if they could like each other or even love each other. Pornography is widely available nowadays, but its messages are incredibly harmful. In the online magazine Futurity, they cited a study in an article about pornography that said that people who watch pornography a lot become more accepting of the idea of violence against women and believe that women actually enjoy being raped. The hookup culture has been touted in songs and TV shows and the movies as a fun, casual way to get through college with no strings attached. But in reality, the hookup culture has been shown by research to be a place of sexual assault and regret. Sex education has been a long, hot topic of debate between religiously minded parents and scientifically minded educators. You have abstinence only, abstinence plus, or comprehensive sex education. But according to a Harvard report titled The Talk, How Adults Can Promote Young People's Healthy Relationships and Prevent Misogyny and Sexual Harassment, they found that, quote, those courses are limited to what's called disaster prevention. That is, how to avert pregnancy and sexually transmitted disease. And what the kids really want to know is frank talk about relationships, consent, and how to avoid the behaviors that cause sexual assault. When we consider that the National Sexual Violence Resource Center reports that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime, and that 90% of the sexual assault that occurs on college campuses goes unreported, we have to know that we need to change the way we teach our children about sex. The problem for most parents is they feel awkward and underqualified to talk to their kids about sex, so they let the public education system or the media teach them. we have to take back the responsibility to teach our children about sex. And there are good resources out there. One that has been literally hiding under our noses for the last over 30 years is called The Parent's Guide. It was produced by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1985, and it is still relevant today. It is a truly comprehensive guide about how to talk to your children about their body, about gender issues, and about healthy sexuality from the time they're infants. At an online poll that I recently did among my LDS friends, I asked parents if they knew about the guide and if they had ever used it. A whopping 76% said they had never heard of it or that they hadn't used it. Some communicated that they were waiting until their children were older before they started teaching them about sex education. But the reality is that in today's society, the media is pushing sexuality on children at younger and younger ages. And we as parents need to be their first source of good information about this topic so that our children will have somebody to turn to. What would it be like if our children could come to us and we could calmly and rationally discuss things together? Maybe they'd be more inclined to come to us when they have a problem or when they need to repent. Maybe they would be more prepared to go out into a world with such dysfunctional attitudes about sex. I encourage all parents, both current and aspiring, to read and use the Parent's Guide. For those of you who have children and haven't started yet, I say read the guide now. Don't hesitate. Start today. This is the best way to protect your children from the dysfunctional messages of the media, to give them the best education that they need, and to keep them safe from the pitfalls that are in the world today. As a marriage and family major, I have studied this topic extensively, and I can assure you that, as Bonnie L. Oscarson once said, quote, "If we don't teach our children and youth true doctrine and teach it clearly, the world will teach them Satan's lies." Close quote. Thank you.